Okay, on to page 3. Some of these look a little intimidating when you're looking at these questions. Try to think about them as sections. So when they put these big square brackets around it, it's like a big box is around this thing, and another big box is around this thing. And remember, with bed mass, brackets are number 1. So you've got to try to make everything in the brackets one thing. And in the first box or big bracket, I have 2, and in the second thing, I've got 2 things. So that's my hint that I've got to make them easier. So on the first one, we can turn this into negative 20 divided by negative 5. For the numbers, 20 divided by 5 would be 4. And if you look at the signs, a negative when you multiply and divide will be a positive. So positive 4. So now you have one thing in the first box or brackets, and then you've got the plus sign, and then you've got the second bracket. Now be careful here. This does not mean 5 minus 3. There is nothing between the brackets, so there's really a multiplication sign. So it means 5 times negative 3, which would be negative 15. So be really careful there. Now you've got a 4, a positive, negative, and a 15. So you've got a double sign here. Get rid of it. There's nothing in front of the positive 4, so I can just write it as positive 4. But this one I've got to fix. So it becomes negative 15. And now you just have 2 numbers, 4 minus 15. If you use your number line, you're going to end up pretty far below ground at negative 11. And sorry about the writing, it's a little bit thick. It's because I'm so zoomed in on the PDF. So it's a little bit hard to write when I'm this zoomed in. Maybe I'll zoom out just a bit. Okay, this one looks like horrible. It's really not that bad because, again, you see brackets. And in the brackets there are 2 things in all of them. So get rid of that. The first bracket would become 2. The second bracket would become the number 1. On the bottom, 6 minus 8 would just be negative 2. So now you've got a 6 and a 2 that are multiplying because they're beside each other, and you've got a negative 10 and a 1 that are beside each other and they're multiplying too. So do the first one. 6 and 2 on the top would be 12. Negative 10 times 1 would be negative 10. And the bottom's just negative 2. So now that's pretty easy because 12 minus 10 will be 2 over negative 2. And remember, 2 divided by 2 is not 0. It is 1. And you have to still have your negative sign because really on the top this is positive. A positive and negative when you're multiplying and dividing will always make a negative. And that's your answer. Okay. On to exponents. Big thing here is make sure that you always remember that if there's brackets, the reason they're writing brackets is to tell you that that is what the exponent is applying to. Or think about them as a big bubble. Because the 2 is attached to the bubble, it's saying I have 2 of whatever's in the bubble. The negative is not in the bubble. So it means I only have 1 negative. It's not changing. It's not being affected by the exponent. It's outside of the bracket. So you just write it. But it's saying I have 2 bubbles that are multiplying together. And in the bubble is pk. So if I wrote that out as multiplication, it would be the negative by itself, then 1 pk bubble times another pk bubble. The base is whatever is in the bubble. So the only thing that was in the bubble was p and k. The negative is not part of the base because it was not in the brackets or the bubble. And the exponent is pretty easy. It was just 2. Okay. Let's go on to the next question. Now I'm not really sure why that's there. I don't think that's supposed to be anything. Okay, on this one, we're using the power to power rule. And the power to power rule means that you multiply the exponents. So here, we're going to be multiplying all the exponents inside of the bracket. Now, if it doesn't have an exponent, write a 1. And let's worry about the negative at the end. Let's just do everything else. So I'm going to worry about this negative at the very end. If I have 5 to the 1, I'm going to write it out like that because its exponent is going to multiply to the outside exponent. And the same thing goes for the m. It's going to multiply 2. I would get 5 to the power 2 and m to the power 2. Now let's deal with the negative. Remember our rule, if it's even, the negative sign will turn positive. If it's odd, it just stays the same. And because 2 is an even number, this becomes positive. And that's your answer. This one's a little bit easier. Just because there's a fraction doesn't mean there's any different rule. The exponents are always going to multiply with the outside exponent. So here you would get p to the 3 times 2 and m to the 4 times 2. So you get p to the 6 and m to the 8. And sorry, that should say 8. Let me fix that. That's better. And that's it. That's all you can do. You're done. Okay, next one. Look at this question. Use the same rules. Worry about the negative at the end. Let's put a 1, and the last p has a 2. That means the 1 exponent is going to multiply by the 2. The 1 on the m is going to multiply by the 2. And the 2 is going to multiply by the 2 on the p. So I would get 4 to the 2, m to the 2, and p to the 4. Now look at the negative sign. Is the negative sign in the brackets? No. So it stays the same. And that's your answer. Okay, I'll do... Well, I won't do these two questions because they're the same and my voice is starting to go here. With these ones here, this one I'm just going to say this will turn positive because it's even. But let's do this question because it's a little bit more tricky. We know that the outside negative is going to be the same because it's not in the brackets. So just write it at the end. But in this question, I gave you another one. So let's deal with that right now. I've got an even exponent. I know that one is in the brackets, so it's going to be affected by the exponent. So it turns plus. And then just do the usual thing. And multiply all the exponents. So you would get 3 to the 2, m to the 4, and p to the 2. But this would have to change. So you would get negative 3, 2, m4, p2. So that's page 3. Hope you watch page 4. And I'm going to go get some halls.